So this week we have been doing one thing, and this is celebrating young women who are occupying senior positions in our public service and making some big moves, right? So today we have a new guest. So let's just go back. Monday, Dr. Kiza Shako, right? Police surgeon. Tuesday, Emma Kithinji, head of Revenue Administration College. Wednesday, Dr. Mercy Mongangi. Apo, there, fighting COVID, the forefront. Yesterday, Rose Washuka, Chief of Staff in the Office of the Chief Justice. Today, hey.
Leo ni leo.
Leo ni leo.
Asemaye kesho
ni mongo.
Yes.
Hajui. Chief Administrative Secretary in the Ministry of Youth, okay, it's called ICT, Innovation and Youth Affairs, is with us in the studio. Nadia Abdalla, very good morning.
Good morning.
Good to have you in the show.
I'm happy to be here.
Welcome to the Situation Room.
Asante.
This building is not new to you. You participated in a televised show. It was called Madam President.
Yes.
Huh?
That's when I officially unveiled myself to the public.
Right.
Wow.
When I was naive and I didn't know anything. Yeah.
Oh, no. That is absolutely not true.
Okay.
When you're naive, it simply means that in a specific field of endeavor, your knowledge is limited.
Okay.
But it isn't that you know
You know
nothing.
something.
You
Okay.
do know something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So how was it that time? Just give us your background at that
Yeah.
point. How this then gave you that exposure, public exposure,
Yeah.
and how you ended up where you are.
I mean, before Miss President, I was working with the community in Mombasa, born and raised in Mombasa. And my interest was women and young people, especially those who've been affected by sexual, gender-based violence, mental health. But also my main goal was to make sure that the coastal young ladies are seen and represented and they participate. So I did my small-scale work from there with the little money that I have. Those days I used to go to MPs and tell them, support this, support that. Then the Miss President flyer came out. And I thought it was the best way for me to really tell Kenyans what I'm doing, but also demystify the stereotype that is around the young women in the coast. And so I applied. I was called. And let me tell you, when I went for the first interview, I blacked out. I was asked, what's the work of the president? I just said, Commander-in-Chief. I didn't know anything else, and I just stood straight. But then they gave me a question where it wasn't a bit technical. It was more of my mind. It was a case study, and, I got into my zone, and I started explaining and everything. And, next thing I was called up, and I came to Nairobi, was with 70 other women. But I was so intimidated because these women were like MCAs. They've been in the field, they've been in the ground. And then I was 28. So you can imagine, these other women are so experienced. When I got there, first of all, the first thing people said, I got chosen because of my looks and because I'm light-skinned, which I really hated. It's this perception and stereotype a lot of women have.
True.
And, I cried for a bit, but then I was called by the organizers and they sat me down and they said, you know what, you're here for a purpose, so work on it. And so, nilipiga moyo konde and I did what I did. I picked a topic, which was mental health, because I'm very, very passionate about that. And that was a topic that I ran through with it up until I got eliminated at top 18. Then now from there, I got a name. Went back home, everybody's calling me Miss President. Miss President said, you know what, let me continue doing work. I created my profile. I created an online website where I put my work. I started being an MC. My first gig, I got 2,500 shillings.
Tell you.
Yes, where I...
Sweet money, that kind of money, isn't it?
It was good. Yeah,
Tax-free.
Was it?
You
was
said
it.
it.
Was it a check?
No,
It
it
was
was cash. Tena hata si M-Pesa, cash.
Right.
And it was a group of women who wanted to show up their businesses and try to be seen outside. Then it went on, built a profile, hapo na hapo, kidogo kidogo. But what I maximized on so much was my visibility online. My visibility online, my devotion to the community. One thing led to another. I'm doing my own thing and my name gets called by the president on TV. And I was just like, I didn't even work towards this. But somehow God took me there.
Right.
Yeah.
Wait. So before the president made the appointment,
Yeah.
you hadn't interacted with any government official,
No.
no, at that level.
Never. I didn't even, any youth, Kenyan youth, let's be honest.
Yeah.
They never think of, okay, they either want to go there because of the wrong reasons or they're like, government's not going to
Too
help
far.
in any way. Yeah. So I never had any interaction. The only interaction I had was tourism department in Mombasa, because I was so big on blogging and trying to showcase Mombasa and everything. But other than that, no interaction at all.
This is very important because there are many people who would sit and think, all right, for her to get that appointment by the president, there must have been, some interactions, there must have been some hand-holding.
Yeah.
Maybe the president said, all right, so I want to appoint young people. Go and bring me the young people. Maybe you were interviewed somewhere, you sat down. So it just, you saw it on TV.
Yeah, I saw it on TV. Woke up one morning. I remember I had fought with my
So
ex-boyfriend.
how did you know you're the one?
Okay, because he said, my friend called me up and he was like, Nadia, what's your name? Because a lot of people in Mombasa call me Nadia Nadi. That was my, alias name. But then he was like, wait, what's your name? And I told him Nadia Ahmed. He's like, no, your full name, as per your ID. And I said, Nadia Ahmed Abdalla. And he's like, you know what? The president just called you. So the first thing I did, I called my late mom. And I'm like, Mommy, I think I just got a job. And you know what she told me? Acha story zako. Whether you are too into your own world, you think everything revolves around you. So please stop it. And I was like, that's okay. Then someone from Standard called me. It's like, Madam, how do you feel now that, how do you feel now the president has appointed you? And I'm like, huh? Then later, the clip was sent to me and, I didn't care about the job. Let me tell you what I cared about. It was the fact that the president said my name. So I was Pale town. I was just telling my friends, the president said my name. So everyone's like, for what? What reason? I said, I don't know, but I
the
know.
president has called out my name.
That's what you should know, yeah.
So you were given this appointment to be the Chief Administrative Secretary in the State Department for Youth Affairs.
Yes.
And at the point when the president was making this appointment, he actually was very clear. He said, I am creating this position of Chief Administrative Secretary and I'm appointing several young people.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why I'm appointing them is so that they can come in, be understudies for cabinet secretaries and other senior persons in ministries, understand how the government works, and hopefully in future they can take the reins.
Yeah.
Personally, when I saw the president saying that, I thought, this is brilliant.
Okay.
Whoever sat you down and told you this is the way to go, brilliant. Now you then get the appointment.
Yeah.
You are required, of course, to come to Nairobi to now get to understand your job.
Yeah.
How are you taken through the job that you've been given? I mean, it's a new position. It's not like you've been told you're a cabinet secretary, so you come in and they see as a job, even in the constitution. It says, you don't know this job.
Yeah. Well, so after he announced, of course, the people at the presidency called me, told me the swearing in is in like 5 days. So I was like, okay. So at first I was praying to God. I'm like, please, let it be in Mombasa. Because I felt like it would be monumental for me. Being in Mombasa, I'm born there and everything. Then before the swearing in, I get a call from the cabinet secretary, Mr. Joe Musheru. He calls me and tells me, welcome to my ministry. I want to connect you to someone. They will help you transition as you come to Nairobi. So the transition was done and everything. And as soon as I landed, I met him. And he sat me down. And honestly, and I always say this, if it wasn't for my cabinet secretary, I'm talking about my experience, I wouldn't be where I am today in terms of the way I'm so confident now, in terms of he always makes sure that people don't say, uyu mrembo or uyu mtoto. He literally makes sure that people know that this is my assistant minister. So from the day I stepped into the office up until today, he's always has a gateway for me to ask him questions, to go through and everything. But of course, public service is very staunch at sometimes because there are people who've been there for ages. So when they see someone like me and I'm walking there, actually the looks and the perception was, this girl is not going to stay for long. She won't understand. So there are times when I would try and ask for help. Some people were hesitant, but other people were not. So the cabinet secretary created a team of people who took me through everything. And let me tell you, I used to read a lot as well because I used to get so nervous every time. I'm like, I need to know. I have this thing. I want to know everything. But of course, you can never know everything.
Yeah. Do you think that the space that you are in and the things that you were doing, the
Yeah.
social work that you were doing,
Yeah.
do you think that it prepared you, somewhere
Yeah.
for this position? Do you think that the things that you were doing, I mean, if you look at it, you were already in administration.
Yeah.
You were already looking at social issues.
Yeah.
You were already looking at young people and moving forward in terms of their
Yeah.
career and such. Do you think it prepared you for this?
Yeah, it did actually. And also my educational background. So I'm one of those fortunate who studied abroad. So I did my bachelor's in Malaysia in public relations and communication, and my master's in foreign policy and cultural diplomacy in Germany. So even when I was outside Kenya, I used to volunteer with UNICEF. I used to be the student leader in the uni. I used to just take myself to networking event. I was a very inquisitive kind of person because something at the back of my mind told me that I had to just draw a blueprint because I'm actually the firstborn in my family and the one who's earned a very master's degree and gotten this. So I usually just it has prepared me. Both
You're the leader.
Abroad, both abroad and here. Yeah.
Okay. So now getting into a position where there was not a position like that before, right? And you're basically starting from scratch. What do you think?
Yeah.
I mean, sure, there's the stuff that was on paper.
Yeah.
The CS has called you here, said, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to give you some help, come in. And then it's on paper. But what did you believe that you needed to deliver then for the country and then for the country's youth?
Yeah. I mean, I knew that one thing I had to do was to break this broken telephone in the government when it comes to the government and young people. Because to be honest, before I came in, a lot of young people didn't have faith. They still don't, but at least now it's a bit okay. But they didn't have faith. They never understood programs. They never understood the government's language. So when I joined, and I remember very well, a month into my job, I sat in the office and I cried. I like crying a lot. It kind of helps me release stress. I cried because I was feeling very frustrated. Here I am. Of course, there are things that have been there, but how do I integrate my old self to the new self so that Kenya and young people can understand?
Right.
And that's how I birthed Kenya ni Mimi. I birthed it the day I started this job. I knew that I needed to create a solid campaign that would enable me to help put young people into different segments. Because to be honest, you can't solve everyone's problem.
Sure.
But you can try to see and identify what is the pertinent problem that is there. And so from then on up until today, that's what I hold very dearly. And
So what is Kenya ni Mimi?
so Kenya ni Mimi is a campaign that I started. I was fortunate enough for the president to launch it. So that's like a plus. But it's a campaign where I want young people to be represented, to participate, to be educated, and to be empowered. How do we do that? Kenya is dynamic. We have 5 campaigns in Kenya ni Mimi. Education and information, technology and participation, health and well-being, and then values, which is the most important one and the one that we are going into right now. Because from my research and from my interactions with the young people on the ground, as young people, we don't have, our value system has really weakened. We really don't see the essence of being proud of being Kenyan, but we also don't see the essence of really taking charge of the little that you have. You see, a lot of times, and this is because of our historical ways in which we live in, we want to solve big issues. We don't want to look at what's immediate and what's there so that you can solve it as a young person before you go all the way. And so for Kenya ni Mimi, we have 50 ambassadors across the country from constituency levels. And then these ambassadors have 10 delegates from every ward level. And what I try to do every month, they give me a report on the challenges they face there, but on also the achievements that they have done. So for me, I'm also trying to train young people on leadership and train young people to be responsible. And this is something that a government official doesn't do, because to me, I look at it as a sustainable approach. I'm going to be 35 in the next 5 years. So from now all the way to 5 years later, what am I leaving behind? That somebody will say, you know what? This is what she did. She might not have solved all the problems, but she made sure that we really believe in solving the issues in our country by ourselves.
You mentioned that young people didn't resonate with the government and that young people, by and large, I'm speaking anecdotally here,
Yeah.
also didn't quite embrace this idea of being Kenyan and feeling like this is really their country. But let me ask the question. What is it that young men and women could look at in the country? What is it that they experience? What is it that they can anticipate that would make them have this feeling that indeed this is their country?
Yeah.
Feeling that they would like to participate in ensuring growth and development. What is it?
Okay, I think it's having an approach and looking through the community level. I come from a place where historical injustices are written on our palms. I grew up not even feeling like I'm Kenyan. But every time I wake up in the morning, I look at how my grandmother, how my aunties, how we live in Mombasa or even in Old Town. And I remember that this is what they have done. It's not like as a whole country, but it's the immediate effect. So I'm trying to tell young people, don't look at a larger scale. Look at what you've done. I thrived in my community level work. Why? Because I looked at this part. I didn't care about whatever is happening in Nairobi, whatever is happening in Kisumu. I looked at how can I change or make sure that Mombasa and the people around me are better. And that's how I paved my way.
Right. There's a lot of pressure on the shoulders of the youth. Huge responsibility. We've been told this year, the future tomorrow. The economy of the country rests on the shoulders of the youth, the age between 18 and 55. We've been told so many things, and it's youth. The youth are going to carry the agenda. The youth are being looked at for the next elections because they are the ones who are going to carry the vote. So much responsibility on the shoulders of the youth right now, conscious or not, that those who've gone before are placing that responsibility. Those who are behind are placing future responsibility on the shoulders of youth. Seems like a big job that these youth have so much to do. But at the same time, we still have the majority of this youth feeling so disenfranchised in this country because of the lack of access to so many things. Access to credit to be able to do what they need to do. Access to funding to attend the proper schools that they would like to. Lack of access to opportunity. Lack of access to, getting their voices heard.
Right.
There seems that even when there's this high expectation, there's this great lack in so many different areas. How are we going to be able to find a middle ground to be able to get to this place where the youth are supposed to go?
So here's the thing, the songs are there, and sometimes I also get a bit agitated because I'm like, the songs are there, but you guys are not helping, or you're not giving. I mean, myself, I wasn't given a mortgage because I'm young and not married in this country, and I'm in this position. So you can imagine.
So,
Actually, what they said was, we cannot give you a mortgage because 1, you're young. 2, we are not sure whether you're going to come back into this job or if you'll have another job
There's
after
no job
2022.
security.
wait,
And I'm
you are
single.
told this by
A bank.
a bank,
In
Yes,
Kenya.
a financial
Kenya.
institution in this country,
In Kenya.
when you already CS.
Yes, juicy too. And so, because I had to pay like 10% in order. I was just being ambitious. But you have to be. And I paid 10%. The bank didn't even care whether or not I lost that money. They just said, unfortunately, we can't give you. Because and the first thing, we're not sure if you'll have a job in 2022. We're not sure.
You're in a risky position.
Yeah. And so,
As a CAS, you are in a risky position.
Well, CAS the government is coming to an end next year.
Yeah,
How do we know whether the next president is going to retain this position?
Bro, what is certain on this planet?
Even the job that you have.
Yes,
nothing.
even that bank person.
Yeah.
What guarantee do they have that that job of theirs is going to last the year?
And so what I think, going back to your question, is, you see, I think youth need to be very smart. And I keep it real. You have to be smart. Wewe unaona, people are singing praises and telling you opportunities and you're the future and everything. But how are you using that same narrative to demand or ask for things and being accountable for what you have? A lot of times youths get played by politicians, which is true. And some part of it is because kuna njaa. So, I will go somewhere and I'm here with developing partners and I came with this and that. A politician will go with 1 million. Who will they listen to? So it has, I think, for the youth in this country, it has to start with them. We have to call a spade a spade. Yes, we have a lot of pressure. Even I do. Before I was a CAS, even I had a lot of pressure. But did I choose to still stay in that same lane, or did I work with what I have? And that's something that we were never taught growing up. Because growing up, you're told, go to school. Once you're done, go to a high school, university, get a job.
Right.
But now, how many people have jobs? Not many. And then because of COVID, the dynamics of how jobs are there are different. So I think it's about time. And I tell you, it's this. We have so much power in ourselves. We just need to be a bit selfish in terms of what exactly do I want and who do I want it from, and go through it not alone, but together. I talk about the women agenda a lot, and I say, why is the women agenda thriving? Table banking, sijui what, chamas. Why? Because women, we are structured.
Work together.
Women, we work together. Youths, we're not loyal. We are not loyal. We can sell each other out like this. And we always want to go to a certain position, not on the basis of, I want to make a difference, but on the basis of, I want to be like that person because I grew up seeing it like that.
Right. So there's a lot to be done. City, let's
it's
take
a
a break.
break.
Yes, yes.
All right.
It's 7:30. In the studio with us is the Chief Administrative Secretary in the Ministry of ICT, Innovation and Youth Affairs, Nadia Ahmed Abdalla. She is here. We are celebrating the young women in making big strides and big moves in public service. We're talking about the power of the youth, and that's why we've just started that conversation. Then, CT, you'll ask the question after the break. After we find out how the roads are looking like this Friday morning, and then also find out the weather forecast for the world. Good morning. And Nadia Abdalla, CAS in the Ministry of ICT, Innovation and Youth. CT, you had a question.
Yes.
Yes.
Nadia Abdalla.
Yes.
Mombasa. Old Town. Specifically, Kuze. Now, the Swahili culture is one of the richest and the oldest cultures we have. Not in this country, but in this region. And the Swahili people are some of the kindest, most generous people you can actually ever come across. The one thing, though, that one didn't see a preponderance of is a focus on the education of the girl child. Update me.
Yeah. So
Tell me how that is and how it is what you're doing has helped.
yeah. Honestly, the education of the girl child has come a long way in the coast. You'd see, I mean, I have classmates who've gotten married after high school and they're okay with it. And when they look at me, they're like, you're going to now intimidate so many men. Nadia, punguza, those kind of things. Because you're too, they say I'm too aggressive, but I think I'm assertive. I know what I want and I'll say it as it is. But what I've seen in the almost 2 years now being in this position, and what has changed, a lot of the Swahili girls are now participating in a lot of programs. I'm one of the people who comes from this place called Swahili Port Hub. I don't know if you know it. And that place, if you go today, a lot of the girls are actually taking charge of these administration positions. They want to now make speeches. They want to be MCs. They want to participate in different things. They even want to debate with the guys. And what we've also seen is the parents, they started from when I was in Miss President. Some parents called my late mom and they told my late mom I would go to hell because I'm on TV. And the whole of Kenya is watching me. And like, why are you dressed like that? But then now it's like, inshallah, uwe kama Nadia, Nadia, please mentor my daughter and everything. So it's changed. Child marriage has reduced among the girl child. But at the same time, because of how girls want to be great, and because of the system back in the coast, the way we've been pressured as girls, if you don't study, if you don't get good grades, utaolewa, the boy child is I won't say the weakest, but he's very weak in the coast. So most of them have resulted to drug abuse. Most of them feel like we are too much. So
They feel disempowered.
They feel disempowered. And the parents, especially the mothers, they're still like, toto wangu. I remember there was a proposal that came to my family. And
Proposal for marriage.
for
I believe?
marriage, yes. And the mother had seen me at an event, one of my MC gigs I was doing. Told my aunt, I really like her, I want her for my son. So what my aunt did, said, okay, you want Nadia? Let me share with you her Instagram page. I kid you not. The mother was like, no. Nadia is too much for my son. My son won't be able to handle her. Yeah, so you can imagine. We're still battling, but I believe being a CAS today, it's given so much hope to the girls in the coast. So much.
You're an inspiration to many.
Yes.
Now, you talked about this campaign of yours, the one that you run in Kenyan Mimi, and it has structures up to ward level.
Yes.
And then the ward people come together and they articulate their issues.
Yes.
Now, if you compare, what kind of issues are coming out of the coast? Are they
in
homogenous?
The coast, in the coast, a lot of GBV and SGBV. There's also a lot of course, unemployment. But there's also this thing, a lot of young people in the coast want to be entrepreneurs, yet they don't want to acquire the skills. So everyone will be like, oh, today I'm going to go to the sea, nataka kuuza samaki. But there's so many ways to sell fish these days. You don't only go to Forodhani to sell fish. You can actually post it online and start selling. So the issue, they'll tell you, oh, Madam CAS, sijui hivi, sijui vile. The other thing, they don't want to take loans.
Why?
Because they said they feel like they won't be able to pay it back. So they'd rather come to an individual. Yeah.
It's fear of taking credit because you don't know. You don't want to be auctioned.
Yes. But also, there's also fear of me going to apply na nitakatazwa.
Yes.
Yeah, so those
Fear
are the
of rejection.
pertinent issues. But especially GBV and SGBV, for girls, it's still
A problem?
It's still a problem.
And how about from other parts of the country then?
From other parts of the country, they want access to more credit.
Okay.
More credit. Because there's a lot of young people these days going into agribusiness. So many. Others, because of 2022 coming, they've come forth and told me that they're having a hard time to either be accepted in a political party because of, the hierarchy or because of the money. So they're trying to seek ways in which they can still vie without using their own money. And the other thing is, of course, connectivity, which is something that, of course, not the whole country has it yet, but it's one of those things that we're looking at. But also, if you look at the central region, alcoholism and drugs, it's really finishing the young people. Yeah.
So many of the people, if you just look at the issue of finance, access to finance.
Yeah.
So access to finance to start a business, and also access to finance is hindering their participation in politics.
Yes.
If we now look at that in terms of political participation in next year's election, many people would like to come out to present themselves as candidates.
Yeah.
I'm sure many of them would like to start at MCA level, maybe at MP level.
Exactly.
So is there anything that the Ministry of Youth is doing to see how to support such people who would like to come out, participate actively in politics? Like you did, but also get support. Yeah,
so one of the things that we're doing, like National Youth Council, we are having elections anytime from January or February. Now, what strategy are we using there? We're trying to round up young people to join this council so that they can create some sort of image and brand for themselves. Thereafter, if they want to be an MCA or they want to be an MP, it's easy for them to go and lobby or lodge to someone else, like someone who has money. But at the same time, as a ministry, we're also trying to give civic education to the ones who want to participate in electoral positions. In what sense? In the sense that how can you be an independent candidate and leverage on your social capital? You see, one thing young people have not understood is finances are important, but your social capital is what is going to take you very far. So a lot of Kenyan youth don't know about this. They're focused so much on what's in my pocket, hawafikiri who's in my contact list. And then as Kenyan Mimi, there's media focus. They're training young women or women who want to be in political spaces, but also connecting them to like the EU, Canadian government and everything. So we are also partnering with them to see how we can now introduce them on that side.
When Ndu mentioned the burden that young people have and what they have to shoulder, what now follows from that particular perspective is a view that young people are to blame and they're responsible for the problems that they have. As somebody who's distinctly older, I beg to disagree.
Yeah.
Because a lot of what young people know, they are taught. Yeah. A lot of what young people do are things they see as represented by those who are older. Like this story of you'll be leaders of tomorrow.
Yeah.
That is an old wives' tale.
True.
When I was a young person, I heard that story. Okay? Until now, I'm clearly not young.
Yeah.
I still hear the story. The reality of the story is those who keep saying it, say it until they themselves get old, and they keep telling every generation.
Yeah.
Leadership is not something that is actually handed over to you. No. Rulership of the kingship variety, that is handed over. But leadership is something you fight for, as you have exemplified in the story that you've told us about yourself.
Yeah.
So, until and unless young people get to the point, and by the way, they can, what we keep seeing as this selfish attitude that they have, or what is represented as selfish, it is survival.
True.
And where do you think they get these examples from? It's from older people. You are now in government.
Yeah.
And you will see people who are much older than you doing things that you cannot talk about on radio, and you'll wonder, God Almighty, now with all these things happening, hey, how are we actually going to be able to get out of this mess? Now, young people see this because some of these people happen to be parents of these young people as well.
Yeah.
You have wealth which this young person has gone to school because the parent has taken them, and they can do the maths and say, I don't understand how my father has this wealth, because given what I know both my parents do, this doesn't add up. Sooner or later, they figure it out.
Yeah.
Now, what am I saying? I'm saying, because I want to ask this as a question,
Okay.
what does the ministry do in trying to get young people to understand the ethical importance of the way in which they conduct themselves? Because right now,
Yeah.
this country is rudderless. It's not young people right now. Things are just moving. It's like in any and every direction that it can at every given moment in time.
Yeah.
So, how does this ministry, because it's a ministry that focuses on youth,
Yeah.
what are you doing to steer the youth in a direction that will make them different from us who are older
Yeah.
and who have clearly brought most of these problems upon the youth?
Yeah. We do three things. Yeah? We have something called Kikao, Gava Iko Kwa Ground. We usually partner with different stakeholders within government and outside government, and we go to different constituencies or counties, and we sit down with these youths. And we try to teach them and talk to them. So, back then it was more of, we know, like the ones who are already in power, they know, and young people have to listen to them. Now, or these days, it's more of a dialogue. It's more of, can we listen to what they're saying and then try to find a way. So at the Ministry of Youth, that's what we try to do. We try to organize and involve these young people through Vikaos to do that. But the second thing is, I'll mention again Kenyan ni Mimi. Kenyan ni Mimi, as much as, yes, we founded it, and it's not something that has been in government for long, but we are also trying to give civic education to these young people to see themselves not as the problem, but as a solution. Because I believe in it, whatever happened in the past has happened. Mistakes have been made. But because of how Kenya, almost 80% of this country is below the age of 35, surely if we change our thinking and we start doing things, whether or not we're in situations where we are desperate, I feel like a bit of change and movement will be done. Because to be honest, Kenya can't change in one day. Youths cannot change their outlook in one day. And problems in this country will not go in one day. But I'm coming back to my point again. We need to have small-scale solutions, small-scale programs, and small-scale activities so that we can just tickle the minds.
Sure.
Change is easier when you're younger. Much, much easier.
You think so?
I know so.
Oh, okay.
And I say it is easier because, one, you still have this urgent push to experience things. You want to understand more things.
Yeah.
An older person doesn't have those needs and those urges.
Yeah.
They think very differently.
True.
But also, you have a longer time.
Yeah.
Yes. So, when these things are inculcated at an earlier age,
Yeah.
that's what we call foundational. It then forms the structure from which all these are things that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have it, the change you're talking about it won't be change. It'll just be a continuum. And what you're seeing happening will simply be exacerbated and it will be on the rise. But nothing will actually change positively. Not really.
I'm looking at, there's the youth factor, but there's also the docket that you hold with innovation and ICT, which, if we want to be honest, those three are still heavily connected. Because with the young people then come the current, spate of innovation, whereby everything that you do now is at the touch of a button. And that even the agribusiness that we're talking about, which is a traditional practice, is now being invited on this innovative platform. Right? That has to happen. The proliferation of this around the country then is equally as important, because youth are not just based in Nairobi or in Mombasa or Kisumu. They're all over the country. And if we're going to include them in all of this, then there has to be that skeletal support from government. Now, here you are, a young person who was doing her own thing and then now called into government. Right?
Yeah.
It is clear that government support is needed. It is also clear that government support in a lot of these issues is lacking.
True.
How then do you think that government can come in to really provide the support, whether it is in funding, whether it is in making sure that there is a zero rating on data, for example, for young people and their businesses, whether it's making sure that there's adequate training for people in agribusiness? I believe the last time we spoke to you, talked about something like this.
Yeah.
What is it making sure that there is deliberate effort to make sure that, in as much as, yes, we're calling on youth to do 1, 2, 3, and we're asking them to think outside the box and be innovative, that there is the required support that they need in all of these sectors and areas?
But the support is there. And the government machinery is also there. Take an example, like Youth Fund. We have a lot of these things. Youth Fund, they have programs that happen from time to time, where if you're a musician, you can have the Talanta loan, but before you get that, you get trained. Like, we have civic education that goes on. We have things like KOP. It's ending in December. The partnership between World Bank and Kenya. We're on the eighth cycle, if I'm not mistaken. And I remember very well, I've gone around these 17 counties where World Bank had picked, based on their own reasoning, why these 17 counties. And what we've seen is, I've seen them being trained by master craftsmen. You see, as much as, yes, technology is there and everything, and you said it, we should be cognizant of the fact that not every young person is into the internet. Not every young person is innovative. So this machinery was created so that young people can go through a 6 months training with stipends to be able to now accumulate their own what do you call it?
Describe it.
Yani experience.
Skill.
Their own skill. Their own skill in order to make better livelihoods for themselves. And when I started this conversation, I said there is a broken telephone. I kid you not. 2 years inside, the programs are there. Government has different things, different machineries that look into the youth matter. The problem is the disconnect between the government.
The youth are not aware.
Yes,
So
they're
there's
not
lack of
aware.
communication.
Yes,
Okay.
and hence why the 7 of us, we have been brought into this government to do that. Now, of course, like for me, I mean, youth, it's mainstreamed, because you can find a youth officer in agriculture, you can find a youth officer here. So we also have to get all of them, and I have to sit with them and then find out what is going on. But if it was one, I believe the communication would have been much easier, because every other ministry has its own mandate. The only ministry that has the mandate of the young people is our ministry.
Yeah.
So it's the broken telephone, honestly.
So what are you doing to correct that? Because you sit in that ministry that's in charge of looking at youth affairs. There's the National Youth Council. There's all these other different organs and programs.
Yeah.
What are you doing? What would you say that, by the end of this administration next year in August, this is the one thing that will have happened? Youth will be more aware of what the government is doing.
I think I'm amplifying more partnerships. And I use the machinery that is there, like NYC, like Youth Fund, but at the same time, and I say this again, Kenyan Mimi. I look at Kenyan Mimi as something that it disperses information, and it also gives a chance to young people to question and ask.
To seek information.
To seek information, but also it gives young people a platform, because every time I go to a certain county and I sit with the delegates and ambassadors, they always tell me they've never seen a government official coming to the ground. I have places I go, I don't go with a car, I take a boda and I go, because I am aware of the fact that that place, it's a hardship area, and me going with a car doesn't make any sense. I sit under trees and I talk to young people. I go to play. I participate. And I do that because I am in the capacity, because I'm young, and because my very, very focus is to do two things. Bridge the communication problem, but also encourage more young people to participate. You see, if you participate...
Are they willing to participate?
They are.
Okay.
They are. Honestly,
so
they are.
clearly, they
Yes.
are willing to participate, but
Yes.
there are reasons that hinder them from participating.
Yes.
Among them is just not feeling powerful enough, empowered enough.
Yeah.
So that challenge then comes back to your desk.
Yeah.
How do you make sure that the youth feel powerful enough, empowered enough to be active
Yeah.
in seeking information? Because they'll be seeking information knowing if I get the information, I can use the information.
Yeah.
Like you said, in
Yeah.
terms of even accessing credit, they don't seek credit because they already feel I'm not going to get the credit.
Yeah.
So it stops them from doing it. What are you doing to change that?
I'm creating an environment where I can enable some of them. Of course, I can't take the 35 million and place them somewhere, but I create enabling environment. My office, that's the first thing. It's always open. I meet people. In fact, I moved, because I was at Teleposta, so I moved to Kencom because it's easier for public transport for them to get me there. Number two, the same campaign we have, it's run by young people. It's volunteers that are there. As much as it was launched by the president, volunteers run it. So we created a space for them to showcase their work, to write articles. When they want to partner with a certain organization, I write letters for them and I sign them. They go. If I can go to an event, I'm a chief guest there. So these are the things that I do. But in addition to that, on the academia side, because we're always looking at these young guys who are up there, the academia side of it, I also go to universities. We're trying to create our small ambassadors to see how they can now use this information and set it forward. And to be honest with you, I'm very happy with what I have done so far because I have reports that show that there is some certain element and improvement in what we are doing. But of course, and I always tell people this, and young people, as much as we are aware of our power, as much as we are smart, we can do this, we still need the older generation to hold our hand through, because they have experience that we don't have. Because we're very disruptive as young people. Because
You're hot-blooded.
Yeah, Gen Z.
It's a way of describing it.
Yeah.
But think about it. If you look at what you call a traditional society, what it had that we don't seem to have is something that is fundamental for intersocietal development. It is everyone having significance.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter whether you're young, you're old, you have your place and it's significant.
True.
And it's recognized. And you also know you're significant.
Yeah.
Now, this perception of insignificance, irrespective of whether someone is in the university,
Yeah.
whether they're in some tertiary education, whether they're doing Juakali, whether they didn't go to school, if they have this perception of insignificance in common,
Yeah.
you're talking about the apathy.
Yeah.
You're talking about why people don't do things. When people don't feel important enough,
Yep.
meaning they feel insignificant,
Yeah.
then believe me,
They see no role.
But
for them to play.
let me ask you guys something.
ask.
Who's supposed to bring that significance to you?
It is actually
Who?
those of us who are older. No. You're going to tell me it's the young people who have to do it for themselves.
The duty bearers have got to create those structures.
No,
Yes.
but I also feel like, you see, this is the conversation that sometimes I like it to turn around. Because when I was growing up, and when I was in this community where, a woman is just seen to be just enough, nobody held my hand and told me, you have to, I'm creating an environment
You
for
had
you.
the confidence that your late mom would support what you're doing.
But it's also because of what I grew up seeing.
Yes.
That's the thing. I grew up because my late mom's family were very poor. Poor.
Nadia, you are talking about a personal significance that is embedded in your personality and your being. That's you.
It's in your DNA.
Yuko kwa damu, dadangu. Okay?
Sawa.
Na haiendi popote. Okay?
Nadia,
Yes.
we thank you very much for coming to the show today.
No, thank
As we
you.
head towards next year's election,
Yes.
we'll ask you to come in more often.
Please.
Let's speak to the largest voter population in the country, and you sit at the desk that has been given that responsibility
Yeah.
to speak to them at the Ministry of Information and Youth.
Yeah.
So we'll invite you. Please come again.
Asante sana.
And it's also very good to hear your story, very good to see the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
And go back and tell the other ladies, they are the 4 ladies that we met this week. We appreciate all of you.
Can I just say something?
Say
Yes.
I just want to tell all young people to go and register with IEBC. Our target is to register 6 million young people, 4 million between the age of 18 to 20, and 2 million between the age of 22 to 24. These are the new voters from 2017 up until today. So if you're a young person, the campaign goes up for 30 days. Please go and register, because honestly, we need to vote. I believe you cannot complain if you don't vote. If you vote, you have the right to complain, the right to do whatever it is. But just vote. Just register to vote.
Bas. And then in the next hour, we are talking about the power of the voter at the ballot. And we'll be joined by somebody who has a lot of experience in dealing with electoral matters, Ambassador Kokimuli. Thank you very much, Nadia.
Asante.
Have a good
Thank
day.
you. You too.
Good morning. It's now 8 a.m.